Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Year in Review edition of the Diz Unplugged. Coming up, we'll have part one of your favorite moments from the past year. From the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida, this is the Diz Unplugged. This is the Diz Unplugged, episode 864 for the week of December 15th, 2015. The Diz Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special Year in Review edition. This is part one. And we will have part two for you next week. I am your host, Pete Werner, and I am joined in the studio today by my good friends, associate producer, Rhino Clavin. And since we're not set up for the wide shot, you will not see Craig Williams.
Who's that guy?
And, of course, our own Steve Porter. Yeah. We're actually recording this. On Friday, December 11th. And in about an hour or so, we're going to be doing our final Freeform Friday of the year. Of course, if you want to go back and check that out, you can do that on our live stream channel, livestream.com. Just look for The Diz, or just go to dizunplugged.com and look for it there. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We have never done this before. We have talked about doing it, but we've never done it before. But a few weeks back, Steve posted on the Diz Unplugged Facebook page and asked for your favorite moments of the year. And we compiled those, not very scientifically, I might add, but compiled those and put together the top 10 moments that you said were your favorites or your most memorable for this year. So we're going to do numbers 10 through 6 this week. And then next week, we'll have numbers 5 through 1. And then on the 29th of December, a solo show done by me and me alone, hence the name Solo Show. That will be my most memorable moments of the year and the things I want to talk about that happened this year, including some things you may not have been aware of. That's the fun part about the solo show. I get personal.
Very dramatic.
It is very dramatic. You gotta leave them. You gotta leave some suspense.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 10 on the list. We had two new members of the team join us this year. Rhino and Steve Porter both came on. Rhino, you started when?
January, right at the beginning of the year. Yeah, because we had our meeting in December before.
I think it was November.
Before the break. Yeah, I think it was maybe right after.
It was the weekend of D23.
Yes.
The D23 thing. Yeah. So Rhino started with us in January, and I met Steve at the Hershey meet in Pennsylvania in June, and he came on board in September. Well, you're like lurking behind him like a stalker.
He keeps like sliding from side to side.
And, we try and be welcoming to new people, but we also tend to have a lot of fun at their expense. It's not really a hazing. It's not intentionally a hazing, but I guess in a way it is. So your number 10 favorite moment, one of your favorite moments, number 10 on our list for 2015, picking on the new kids.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's literally what you said. Visitors have long been warned to keep their arms and legs inside of ride vehicles at all times, but it still doesn't stop kids from jamming their hands down into Small World, and the cart pushes against it.
All right. Thank you, Gyno. Craig, what do you?
Gross.
Okay.
What's the matter?
You're gonna ruin his self-esteem.
Sorry. Thanks, Rhino. On to Craig.
Okay, so frozen fever treats are coming to Disney parks. You'll be able to find them.
Beaver.
Did I say fever?
It
Did I say
sounded like
fever?
it had a bee in it.
I said beaver. Frozen beaver.
Frozen beaver.
So if you're looking for frozen beaver treats, you can find them at the Marketplace Snacks, I'm sure. No, in an attempt to really
Keeping in line with the man
just
at
done.
Walmart.
they're going to
little
sell
cup
more
it's
crap
in.
with frozen on it.
The little cup is cute.
Oh, it's a cupcake.
Is
I
it
couldn't figure it
collectible or
out.
is that throwaway?
Probably is collectible.
Like a third of the stuff. Loot Crate is you sign up. I do this, and you get like a T-shirt and a random little figure, and it's just a themed month, and it sends you a fun little gift pack.
A random figure of what?
You don't know. Like this month's theme is Unite, and so it's all about like superhero stuff. So I think I'm getting like a Power Ranger thing and like a T-shirt and like all this. It's just a random little. Everybody wants a gift every now and then.
I want to start, even though I couldn't participate, I want to start a drinking game. Every time Rhino mentions either Power Rangers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, someone take a shot. Okay? You will be obliterated by the end of any given show.
I'm going to start selling Rhino random crap from our house.
He wants little gifts. Send him little gifts.
We have so much. I mean, like, I could send him an extra potato peeler.
Put boxes together and call it close crap.
Rhino's cute. Don't pick on him. He's sweet. Boy.
I think Drano's wonderful. He's a
Drano. All right.
So
Well,
please sign up for that if you're interested.
Sunday is Tar and Feather Rhino.
That's right. Saturday night, we're going to sacrifice Ryan.
Ryan.
Rhino. I'm sorry. That's not like a real name.
I know. It's just like numbers, or it's like Scrabble.
Saturday night, there's going to be dinner followed by the podcast, auction, raffles, and other surprises.
all right. Number 9 on the list was definitely a highlight in my year, and that was our Disneyland 7 and 7. And I think of all the special events that we have done for this show, be it video or audio, nothing was quite as epic as our coverage out in Disneyland. And part of that was because we did something that we've never done before, and we worked directly with Disney, with Walt Disney Travel, to produce that. That's not something we normally do. Normally we kind of go in guerrilla, but we were able to get access to things that we would not normally get access to. Namely, a lot of the suites that were in the hotels. They helped open up some of the off-property hotels for us. It was really, it was an exhausting week.
Yeah.
Because we were there for 10 days? I think we were there for like 10 days.
It was over 7, yeah, because we got there the first day, but we got there early morning, but we didn't have to do anything that day, and then I think we still had a day at the end, too.
But no one was right at the end of this. So not only, do we have to go out and we have to film all this stuff, and we're on our feet 10 to 12 hours a day doing that, then we have to come home and we have to put it all together. And that in and of itself, that alone is pretty epic. So we recorded all that stuff in March, and it took basically 2 months for us to put together all the content that we created for that. And of course, it went up on the site on the actual, the official, well, I guess the official 60th anniversary was in July, and I was out there for that. But this was the first day the park was open, right? Was in May?
Start of the.
I can't cut to.
Start of the 60th anniversary. So here is a look back at your number 9 favorite moment or most memorable moment from 2015, the Disneyland 7 and 7. I want to talk about, since most of the people watching and listening are very familiar with our Magic Kingdom here in Orlando,
Right.
I want to talk about some of the differences that you will find out in Disneyland versus our Magic Kingdom. What's one of the first things that comes to mind in terms when I say what's different about Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom? What would you say?
For me, I like going there, but I don't like going comparing. Okay, their Spaceship Earth. I mean, their Thunder Mountain versus ours. Their Space Mountain versus ours. I like the different things. They have New Orleans Square. They have Toontown. We don't have that here. You can actually go to Mickey's house there. It's the things that we don't have that I'm really love.
But even, for me, one of the first things that come to my mind when I think about I think about Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
Because it is such an extraordinary difference between ours. It's a longer ride.
Right.
It's a more detailed ride. It's a different experience, especially because built into that attraction is the Blue Bayou restaurant, which I certainly have my feelings on.
We all do.
Do not like that.
Yeah.
Is it still bad?
I haven't been back.
It's uneven.
Oh, okay.
There you good. Yeah.
It's crap. Okay, I'm not as polite as Michael. It's crap.
If you're going to spend that money, go to Steakhouse 55.
Steakhouse 55, absolutely. He knew exactly what he wanted, and they recreated the town, Radiator Springs, from that film so brilliantly.
So much detail.
So much detail, and just walking around it, it's like, wow, okay. And for me, it is one of those things, especially because it's new. It's in the last 3 years that it opened. It's one of those things that say, Disney still has real game with this. Real game when they let their people do what their people are supposed to do. And they let them run loose. This is what you get.
Yep.
This is exactly what you get. I love this. And Will, of course, being
Oh, I was in heaven.
the cars freak that he is.
Yeah, I'm a huge car guy. I love the old classic cars, and this was, hands down the best themed section of a theme park I've ever been in, without a doubt.
He was cursed trying to get on the attraction, though.
Yeah, it took me like 5 times to get on the racers.
It kept breaking down.
Yeah, and then they ran out of fast passes, of course, and all kinds of stuff.
But he finally got on it.
Yep, I did.
He finally
My last
got on
day.
it.
Yes. When you go into the Grand Californian, you'll notice how a lot of the pillars and everything are large at the base, and then they sort of, the people listening can't see me doing this, but then they swoop up and it becomes more narrow. All of the columns, the shape of the hotel itself, that's to reflect the shape of a tree.
I like the over the check-in area where they had it was supposed to replicate a church, wasn't it? That the
Right.
tree branches actually curved, and there was quite a few of them up there.
The fireplace
Right.
does that, right? It's really big base, and it gets smaller as it goes up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and so that was that was the purpose of Craftsman, to reflect the color and the nature and the materials from nature. And so that permeates through the whole hotel. All of the
That breakfast at the PCH Grill is what you're talking about.
Right.
And that was a phenomenal breakfast.
It's the surf's up
Yeah.
breakfast with Mickey and friends.
granddaughter loved it.
Not only was the food very good, the character interaction, the characters themselves, just incredible. You had Stitch, we had, Surfer Mickey, I guess it was.
Lifeguard.
Lifeguard Mickey.
Like that.
And I much prefer the D Street out in Disneyland compared to ours back here. Ours is still very focused on Vinylmation. Now they're getting into Star Wars and Marvel, but there's also specialty items out there like my awesome fedora that I purchased while I was out there.
Looked really good on you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Haven't worn it since.
I forgot
and
you had that.
And one place
But God forbid he makes himself look nice.
Yeah,
Number 8 on our list is the Disney World 7 and 7. Now, we started doing these. We kicked off the video version of the show back in February 2013 with our first 7 and 7. And we I never imagined it would become as popular as it was. And again, now, these are things that have to be shot in advance and a lot of editing. Although I will say that our Disney World 7 and 7s were never as intensive in terms of work. Maybe because we're able to come home afterwards, like whoever's not staying at the hotel is able to come home and sleep in their own bed. But our Disney World 7 and 7s have been very, very popular, and we always get asked, when are you doing the next one? And we are doing a fresh take on that in the new year, and I will have more information on that on our January 5th show. But number 8 on our list, the Disney World 7 and 7. But I have to say this. I fell in love with that villa we were in.
The villas are updated now.
Gorgeous.
And they're great.
Comfortable. And I'm saying to myself, look at how you've decorated these. Why can't you carry that over to these rooms in the non-DBC part of the hotel? I would absolutely highly recommend, especially if you need the 1 or 2 bedroom units, because we had a 2-bedroom, and incredible. It was an onslaught of food. It was like if anybody's ever been to that Texas Day Brazil, where you feel like, I think Kevin put it, you feel like there should be like fast-paced music playing as they're putting the food down. That's kind of what this was like. Yet, and then, like you said, then they just completely disappeared. And we were forgotten about. And I was like hunting down somebody just to get the check. So, these are complaints I've heard about Ohana for years. It is touch and go. Generally, I love Ohana. I do. Especially at dinner time. I think the food's really good. The entertainment is excellent. So breakfast, it's been hit or miss. I've had breakfast there that have been fantastic. I've had others that have been like this.
Going back to, I know Dustin and I laugh about it a lot, like the House Meets the Mouse with Full House. This is the one you saw throughout the 90s being in all these promotional materials. Anytime anyone from ABC television ever came to Disney World, they stayed at the Grand Floridian. So that was what you saw growing up. So all of a sudden, I'm not on the same level
as Danny Tanner,
where Bob Saget was.
Of course, they were a middle-class family with a party of like 13. I don't know how they afforded Grand Floridian.
Well, I mean, you just think about it. You walk in and there's a grand piano there with somebody playing, elegant melodies with children dancing around in princess dresses, and then they've got the whole orchestra up on a balcony.
Yep.
The shopping all around the lobby, it's some of the best shopping
it's great
of
shopping
any
up
of the
there,
resorts. Yes, exactly. But it still can be, all of the Victorian touches to it. It's just, it looks very classy, and you almost feel like you should be walking around with white gloves on.
But it's funny because taking photos at all these resorts, you walk into a gift shop and you take photos, and nobody really cares. You walk into these, and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, sorry, I'm just taking a photo.
We did have breakfast at Cape May Cafe, and I got to be honest, this was another thing that kind of won me on the Beach Club. It wasn't good. It was outstanding.
Yes,
it was. We were there late in the morning, so we were closing down the buffet. Normally, that's like the kiss of death at a Disney buffet because you're getting stuff that was, not as fresh. But everything that we ate there was fresh and delicious and creatively done. It wasn't just a lot of the same stuff you find in other buffets.
I was going to say it was varied.
This is my style of buffet.
They had chorizo, scrambled eggs, which if I could eat 100 pounds of that, I would be happy.
I almost want to recuse myself at this point because, as I mentioned at the beginning, of all the Disney resorts, Old Key West for me holds the most emotional place in my heart, especially in that these are the only time I've ever had an experience with my entire family at Disney World was at Old Key West. I have great memories of my parents. The first time I saw my parents holding hands. Honestly, walking into Epcot, holding hands with each other, was on the trip that we stayed at Old Key West. The experiences that we had there, the memories that were made there, for me, prevent me from looking at this resort and being able to criticize it. Everything that these guys have said is legitimate. But for me, because of those memories, because of that, and this is where I become a fanboy, and because of those experiences, Old Key West for me is a perfect 10. Not because I think it doesn't need to be updated, or I think that Olivia's needs to be changed, or the gurgling suitcase couldn't be improved, or the parking at check-in. All of those things are true. But I carry with me these incredible, incredible memories. And so staying there that day, being there that day, every place I turned, I had a memory. I had a great memory. And at the end of the day, isn't that what this is all about?
Oh, yeah.
We drive ourselves crazy in the planning process because we want to make these great memories. We're doing it from a good place. But we can sit here and pick apart the carpet, the bedding, the food, and all of this other stuff. But at the end of the day, what really matters is what memories do we make. And during this particular week, I got to make new memories with people I care about very much, people I work with, people I love, people that are, in all respects, my family. So this has been a great experience. This was a great week. It was a busy week. It was a lot of work. But I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it in large measure because of the people that I get to do it with, which is the very reason that you are listening and watching right now, because you are trying to plan or thinking about planning a vacation just like that for yourself. So I hope that in this 7 in 7 series, we've given you some perspective. Again, I say this with everything. Anytime we do any kind of overview or review like this is a snapshot of a moment in time. You should not make a decision to buy or not buy, stay or not stay based on anything that we say. This is just information for you to have as you make your plans, knowing your family and your needs and your wants when you vacation. You just factor that all in and make that decision yourself. Coming in at number 7 on our list was probably, even though I wasn't there, probably one of my proudest moments. Certainly in the show, but maybe in the history of the site. Watching the kind of coverage coming from our team during D23 out in California. Again, these guys were bloody when they got back. And I know, Rhino, for you, that experience was pretty special. Every time he talks about meeting Dick Van Dyke, he starts getting verklempt.
I thought it'd be okay by now, but when we talked about it on the show last week, oh God, yeah, it was something special. It was amazing. I won't even go into it again because I'm sure there's going to be some video of me crying in a second, so I don't want to go into it too much.
But some awesome coverage and a lot of big news coming out of D23 this year. Not the least of which was the announcement that Star Wars would be coming to Hollywood Studios, which we knew, we just hadn't been made official yet. And of course that Toy Story Land would also be coming to Hollywood Studios. So here's a look back at our coverage from D23 in August of 2015.
But so far, the highlight of this morning, I think, in everyone's opinion, at least those who attended it, would be the Disney Legends inductions. And we had actually lucky enough to have Michael in it, as well as Rhino and Corey. Corey's not here to speak about it, but, well, right now we have Michael. So, Michael, I'm going to throw it over to you.
So we'll settle for Michael?
Yeah, we'll settle for Michael. You know, he's Michael.
Oh, well. I'm not just beauty. Guys, there was a legend that was not announced. And suddenly we start seeing all these clips for Pirates of the Caribbean and Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. And Johnny Depp is introduced by Bob Iger. And Bob Iger said that Johnny Depp redefined Pirates of the Caribbean for a whole new generation. And in fact, a Pirates of the Caribbean land is being developed at Shanghai Disneyland. And then Johnny Depp came out saying, so I don't know why I'm here. I really don't. So typical Johnny Depp. But he said the only reason I am here is because of the fans. But he didn't like the word fans because it made you think that there's people on top and people on the bottom. So he prefers to refer to all of us as his employers. But he said seriously that he was really honored to be inducted as a Disney legend with the likes of all the other folks that were inducted today and before him, and that he will treasure it, and hopefully is hopes that this means he'll get to meet Mickey Mouse.
Nice.
And with that was the end of the Disney Legends ceremony for 2015. I think it was one of the best. Lots of surprises, and I think this is indicative of the surprises that we're going to get this whole weekend.
Very good. Never mind, JL. We're actually going to kick you off.
Just been kicked out of the building.
Just for a few moments.
Yeah. Sorry, but we have a special guest coming in, so.
So we were just talking about Charles Phoenix.
Exactly.
And who walks in, but...
most gracious good afternoon. Are we on the air live?
We are live on the air.
Live on the air. So watch the fancy footwork.
There you go.
Thank you.
So I guess Greg got to see you last night. I got to see you this morning. Hilarious.
Thank you very much.
So
the Retro Disneyland slideshow. Yes, I love to look through the layers of time. One of my favorite ways to do that, besides driving around, is through other people's old Kodachrome slides, which I've been collecting, for like 25 years now from estate sales and flea markets and everything. And let's just get this out of the way. There we go. And so I have this, a lot of different theme shows, but one of my favorite shows to do is the Retro Disneyland slideshow, and one of my favorite subjects to find in other people's old pictures is, of course, hello, Disneyland.
Well, you grew up around Disney, right?
I did. Yeah. I grew up in Ontario, California. We used to go to Disneyland 1 million times a year. Well, I'm exaggerating, but you know how it is. And I've never lost the magic has never been lost for me. It just never went away. So, I mean, not that it does, but, there are no guarantees in life.
Hey everyone, we are live from the D23 Expo. This is day 2. This is our first show for the morning, and we have a very, 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 very big announcement to make, and that was at the live action film panel that just wrapped up about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. They finally announced it, coming to Disney's Hollywood Studios and Disneyland Park.
Yay.
A brand new Star Wars expansion.
We are very excited. So one can only hope Innoventions is finally being knocked down.
Oh, yeah. And, they're going to have something to do on their hands, because this isn't just going to be a tiny, tiny little land. This is going to be the biggest expansion.
14 acres.
14 acres. The biggest expansion in Disney's history. Michael, do you know what Cars Land is in terms of acreage offhand?
Offhand, I think it's like 6-7 acres.
Okay, so that's the scope that this place is going to be.
And this is also going to push technology. This is going to be the most immersive land, even beyond Avatar, and the most technologically advanced land that Disney has ever done.
Oh, absolutely. And for those of you who are wondering, what place is it going to take in the Star Wars saga? Where is it going to come in? Rhino, where is it coming into place?
A brand new land, and I thought that was a very interesting announcement to make. It was almost like we're going to create a whole new world that you can only visit and see by going to the park. So
yes, and it's
all existing within canon. Yeah.
Bring it back to the Dick Van Dyke thing. I say that there's a thing when you meet a celebrity and you have this thing where you're like, I can't believe I just met, like Harrison Ford being in that room for us. But for me, Dick Van Dyke is this level of a human being that will never exist again. And my mom has videotape of me in a diaper with a 2x4 in my hand, and making my brother be Mary, and I am singing Jolly Holiday before I even really know how to talk, and I'm reenacting the turtle scene. And so I just was talking to my mom the whole time, and I'm like, what do I say to him? What do I say? So I just said, I went up, and it wasn't even just, he was very personable. He shook my hand, and he asked my name, and I just said, I just want to say thank you for bringing can't do it. Anyway, so we shook hands, and I hold my hand sometimes because it's I'm still shaking hands with him, and I don't know. So the other stuff was really amazing, and then I just didn't expect to have such an experience like that on top of it. So I have to tell you, those panels were phenomenal. I thought they handled, for such a large crowd, us having that 3-day ticket, I thought they handled everything so well. Being in a room with these celebrities, it just makes you feel so close to having gone to school for all that stuff. You're your hand's kind of in it a little bit. It was just a phenomenal.
Can I say that with this show, I've gotten to see another side of you?
Thanks. Well, I'm going to start crying when we're done.
I like it. I like it. That's awesome. That's awesome. And finally, number 6 on our list for this week. was the show that we recorded at the Hershey Meet in Hershey, Pennsylvania back in June. The topic being the inclusiveness of Disney, probably one of the more emotional shows that we've done. Certainly one of the more emotional shows, I think the most emotional show we've done on the road, but I think it's got to be up in the top 3 overall. And that was the weekend that the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage. So for me and for some other members of the team, that was a pretty significant weekend. And that definitely inspired me to make that the topic, because one of the things, there are many, many things I love about Disney. It's inclusiveness. It's attempts to lower barriers or remove barriers for all sorts of people is one of the things that make it so special. So we close out this first part of our Best of 2015 with a look back at our show on the inclusiveness of Disney at the Hershey Meet in June of 2015. So as I said in the opening, I was really struggling to come up with a topic for the show today. And usually when that happens, usually when something doesn't come to me right away, it's because there's something I should be talking about that I haven't. And it dawned on me actually this morning as I'm walking out of the hotel room that, regardless of where you are on the spectrum politically, and I'm not going to make this a political conversation. I'm not going to tolerate a political conversation. Let me put it to you that way. Regardless of where you are on the spectrum, it's undeniable yesterday was a historic day. It was a historic day. In my lifetime, I never thought I would live to see gay marriage being legal. Never thought I'd say it. But it got me thinking. And I had written this in an article many years ago about gay days. And I've made no secret of the fact that I'm not a big fan or a big supporter of gay days. I don't think it needs to be in the Magic Kingdom. I don't think that's the place for a political agenda. And part of my argument about that was that as a gay man, I've experienced everything there is to do at Disney. Whether it's Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Aulani, Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise Line, and I've done it all with my partner. And I have never for one moment in any of those experiences in the 20-plus years I have been visiting Disney World, never once ever did I feel excluded. Never once did I feel like I was on the outside or I was in a special class of people that had to be taken care of or paid attention to a certain way. I felt like I got the same experience and treatment as everyone else, that my relationship was accepted, and not just accepted, but it was celebrated. That's a wonderful feeling. That's a wonderful feeling. We have talked often on the show about how Disney is a place where if you have a disability, a lot of barriers that exist in other places in the world don't exist there. I go back and talk often about our good friend Skip Potter, who has cerebral palsy and lives his life in a wheelchair. And one of the things he said to me that stayed with me was that Disney World is the only place I can go where I don't feel like I'm in a wheelchair. Because those barriers to entry are removed, because Disney goes further than the ADA requires them to. I hear stories all the time about people that have special needs or situations in their families. They go to Disney and they have this inclusive experience. And I like to keep these shows that we do on the road, I like to keep these positive. I like to try and keep these positive. And I thought, what a great topic to talk about. Inclusiveness. And how Disney has been doing it right for a very, very long time. And I don't think anybody who's experienced it can say otherwise, truly. We can certainly nitpick this, that, or the other thing. But generally speaking, especially to some of us, myself included,
Gotten spoiled.
I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast, but the first time I ever went to Disney was against my better judgment. I didn't want to be there. And we were there because my mother had passed away and my husband had passed away. But once I sort of loosened up a little bit, I realized that Disney was the perfect place to be, because nobody knew that I didn't have a husband anymore. The kids didn't have a father. Cast members went out of their way to talk to us. And I'm there like, wow. Because when I lived in Pittsburgh and I was around friends and family, I could walk into a room and I could shut everything down because people would look at me and go, she's the widow. She can't, we can't be having fun in front of her. And we got to go to Disney, and it was truly magical. We got to, my kids got to be kids again. I got to see my kids. I got to see the weight lifted off their shoulders. It doesn't get any better than that. That's what sold me on it. And then the first year that we lived in Orlando was the season of the 4 hurricanes. And, I can remember sitting in the bathtub listening to the shingles blow off my roof. And the second hurricane came through and it took a little more off. And by the fourth one, I had buckets in every room. And Disney, that company we love to hate sometimes, stepped up and offered their cast members grant money to, help towards the expenses of the hurricane. And so Disney gave us like $1,000 to, and it's like they didn't have to do that.
When my youngest Elly, I'll give you a bit more detail this time. When my youngest Elly was a year old, I got this phone call from her pediatrician that completely changed my life. And I was told that at her recent checkup, she was found to be lead toxic. So, a long story short, that ended up led me to finding out that all 3 of my children had heavy metal toxicity. Now that has a multitude of problems that go along with that, but one of the things that it manifested for my family was in the area of the foods that they could eat. And Elly, especially at the time, was highly allergic to a lot of things, had eczema that was so terrible that I was asked frequently if she was a burn victim when we were out in public. Just this weeping, oozing, flaky, awful rash on her face. So I had my entire life changed at that point. Everything had to change. The things that she was exposed to, the things that she ate, the toys that she played with. The reason for that was because the treatments that she had to go through, I had to be very, very careful about what she came in contact with when she was going through those treatments. So food was especially difficult for us. She was allergic to eggs. She was allergic to soy. She was allergic to dairy. I mean, she was allergic to so many things, and I had to go through this very careful rotation between the few things that she was still able to eat. And I also had to make everything from scratch at home. I mean, it was hardcore. I was making my own yogurt, my own applesauce. If we needed spaghetti sauce, I was, squishing the tomatoes myself. That meant that we didn't eat in a restaurant for over 2 years. I was held hostage in my kitchen, and my family was home all the time. We didn't vacation. Sometime after 2 years, I decided to try to be brave and go take our family somewhere where we could vacation. But it was very scary for me. The consequences of eating the wrong food could lead to something very bad for us. So we decided to go to Disney, and we rented points for a Disney Vacation Club villa. The reason for that was because it came with a kitchen, which was essential for us. In doing that, in the planning, I did contact the special dietary department so that I could find out about what was available kiosk-wise in the park and what the rules were. Primarily, I wanted to be able to bring our own food in, and I was wondering if there was a place where I could leave the food items that I brought in somewhere where they could be kept for us, and then we could retrieve them. In that, they tried to convince me, well, you're not allowed to bring in your own food that way. We can't store food for you, but we would love for you to eat in one of our restaurants. And I was like, hold the phone. No, that's not going to happen. Nobody else can feed my children except for me because this is really, really critical. The woman, this was a really stressful trip for me. I was only even willing to go to one park. I was like, we're only spending one day in a park. That's it. We're not going anywhere else. We're going to be in this villa and we go to a park on one day. And that's all that like I could imagine in my mind us, being able to handle. So we decided to go to Hollywood Studios. I'm not sure why. Please don't question that decision. But we did, and in there, the lady at the dietary department, she was like, I want to put you in touch with Chef Patrick at the Hollywood Brown Derby. I think that he'd be really great and would take extra special care of your family. And I was like, well, I suppose if you really want me to talk to this person, I can, but I'm not eating there. I'm not eating with anybody else feeding my children. Anyway, so this man, I thought that I was going to get, hear from him email or a phone call, maybe like, in a week or two. Within 10 minutes, I got a phone call. And it was Chef Patrick. And he asked me, what our situation is and what kinds of foods she couldn't have. And I was like, well, the list would be much shorter if I tell you what foods she can have. So in that, it started this beautiful relationship over the next couple months of vacation planning between me and this chef, where he actually begged me, please come to my restaurant. I want to feed your family. Oh gosh, I've been around Teresa too much. So I decided to trust him, and he would get in touch with me, like I said, regularly over the next couple months, checking up on my kids regularly, to see, how our progress had been coming, if they were making any progress where there were other foods that he could include in the meals. The amount of care that we were given, I was blown away. This is the reason why I'm not sure how many people in the room deal with dietary restrictions, but I think it's frequently overlooked that people that do are excluded in so many ways. Even when we were at home, it was extremely difficult because we couldn't even go to simple things like birthday parties, or there was not stuff available there for my kids, or even if somebody did provide something, an option for my children there, eyes were often rolled, and you just felt discriminated against. It can be, depending on how difficult the restrictions are, it can be a very isolating experience, not just physically, but also emotionally. And so for Disney to reach out like that, for this man to tell me, I want to feed your family. Gosh, why am I crying like this? I cried all yesterday. You got it all out ahead of time. It meant the world to me. And after that vacation, I knew we were going to go back every year. So we bought into Disney Vacation Club after that. It was no more point renting points. We're just always going there. But it was that Disney experience where we were able to go and be able to vacation like everyone else. And I'm not entirely confident I would have been able to find that same experience anywhere other than Disney.
Can I say one more thing before we wrap up?
No.
Well, I'm going to say it anyway. I just wanted, you're talking about inclusion and things. As I look out around the room, I know I said this to a lot of people last night, but when I first moved to Florida, I didn't know anybody there. And, through the Diz and through, the podcast and Give Kids the World, I now have friends because of their love of Disney all around the world. And Pete plays a very big part in that, because if it wasn't for the Diz, I wouldn't know any of you in this room and all the events that I go to. And I says, like, when you read that there's something that's happened in Australia, I think of certain people. We have friends in the Netherlands. I have friends all over the world now. And why is that? Because we all share a love of Disney. Mm-hmm. I never, ever, ever thought when I moved to Florida that I would be in this community of people. And along with this community, what we've accomplished for Give Kids the World to make Disney a better place. Isn't it pretty awesome when you include people, like-minded people, what you can accomplish?
Amen. You know, I'm just as Kathy was talking, I was thinking about when you know what it's like to feel excluded for whatever reason, you appreciate the feeling of inclusion so much more. As someone who grew up in the 70s and came of age in the 80s, who was bullied and picked on and chastised and ostracized as a kid, especially for those of us who can relate to that. You know, it stays with you. It stays with you. I tell the story all the time, you know, and if you think my drug addiction and my alcohol addiction isn't related to that, you're crazy. Absolutely, it's related to that. Wasn't the cause of it, but it sure was one of the ways I medicated those feelings. And I've told the story before, my first time going to Disney, right after I had gotten sober the first time. That sense of this is what I did drugs to feel like. This was a place I could come. Have those experiences and that feeling, and not be self-destructive, and not feel ostracized, and not feel bullied, not feel different than. The biggest, hardest part of doing this show for us was the concept, the thought of putting ourselves out there. We were terrified. Terrified. Because it's scary. It's the internet. We're not hiding behind screen names. It's our names and our voices, and now our faces. And to find people that connect with you, accept you, love you, never met you. It's an experience I hope you all get to have. And it's an experience I get to have. Sorry. No, I'm good. It's an experience I get to have every time I get to walk into a room like this. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. All right, well, that will do it for the first part of our look back at 2015. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with part 2. So until then, everyone, thanks for joining us, and remember, Merry Christmas.